Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Happy Gatty Crypto here. So we're just going to kind of have a little chit chat with Strafe, who is one of the developers here at HCC, and we're just going to be really just talking back and forth about what's currently going on and where the funding went and where it really does leave us as a community. So Strafe, welcome and thank you for coming back on. So it's all just a little bit, coming full frontal, isn't it, at the moment, with Zaradar stepping back from Terra Rebels, but also stating, stepping back from Terra Rebels and not outlining that he's leaving Lunar Classic. It's open for interpretation, isn't it?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me again. It leaves room for interpretation, but as far as he only said he has left or stepped back from Terra Rebels, I don't think he is currently leaving all the development of the Lunar Classic chain. So it's not really a concern to me in regards to further development overall. It's just a bit more that we don't really have a kind of list who is left in Terra Rebels at all, and especially who is left with which responsibility or work that is he's assigned to. That's something that is my main concern, and it doesn't seem that rebels are willing to somehow make a team list or a team page with separate teams inside of Terra Rebels. And I don't mean they need to be doxed, just name their usernames, their aliases, and what team internally they are working in would be something that would be very useful.
And even if you go to the Terra Rebels website, which is just terrarebels.net, if you are listening, even there in the team section, we don't have any kind of, clear definitive link to who are Terra Rebels and who's it made up of, what developers are on board, what qualifications have they got, because there's people who'd say they don't need to be doxed, but now I think we're at a point where we've just handed $150,000 over to people that we don't really know exactly what's been outlined and what we're going to get bang for our buck, so to speak. So, and seeing now with the distribution of what funds have happened, leaving 120 million doesn't actually leave a lot of room for infrastructure, does it?
No, it should be around worth, I think, maybe 15,000 US dollars that is left in the wallet. But what I didn't like from the beginning, and I stated that, is that Clan Madhon said that it's not of the community's concern how the funds are distributed internally. It's just they will use it somehow, somewhen, for whatever reason. They outlined very rough details, and now we just see the money flow, but we have no idea who the wallets belong to and for what work it is being or it will be used, or is it a kind of post-paid for already done work. So that's something I would have liked to see addressed, so we as a community have at least a glance on how this distribution is done internally.
Yeah, it's always going to be kind of now at this point that we're at where someone is now actually responsible because they've actually taken a payment from the community for a service that has to be rendered and provided. So there is a lot of questions going back and forth at the moment as to which, who is actually responsible for TR as a whole. If you look at TFL, who's the point of call? Well, it's Do Kwon. So who's really the point of call in TR now, and what members are left? So from what we know between ourselves right now, it is a diminishing number of what are seen as L1 devs.
that's one thing that I mentioned. It's completely unclear who is doing what inside of Terra Rebels, at least for me, and I didn't see any statement that would have changed that. And yeah, so we don't really know if there is ongoing layer one, or if the leave of Zarda has left Terra Rebels in kind of a situation where they have to search for new level 1 developers until they can continue considerable work on the chain itself. And that's just something that would need to be addressed, like saying, not only saying, yeah, all good, we are working and it is fine, but providing a list, a team list, to just to show who is Terra Rebels at the moment. That's something they might need to think about, if they maybe they need to do something like that, because I don't think anyone from the community currently really knows who is inside of Terra Rebels.
We know that they're laying people off, though, currently. As to who's being laid off, when they're being laid off, we don't know. But from what I'm aware, there's a list that's going to be provided as to who's been laid off, which is very interesting, because if we look a little bit deeper and think a little bit further into what Zaradal's tweet is saying, is that he was more or less unhappy with the decisions on where funding was going. And then if we look to see how the funds are distributed in that wallet, then we can sort of think to ourselves, well, maybe this funding hasn't actually gone to the correct people, and instead it's going to, there's a rumor going around that it's going to moderators, it's going to people that haven't even written code or can't write code. It's actually not going to the places where it should be going. Then there's also another argument back and forth where they're saying the funding was going to go either externally outside of TR or internally inside of TR. So it's a little bit strange. But what do you make if Zaradar is obviously signaling that he wasn't happy on the route of fundings going? If we then look at the evidence to show how the distributions happened, it really does raise eyebrows.
It's really hard, because there will be many questions asked. I'm sure that there are several people closely following all the money flow currently, and there are 11 wallets that got 10,000 US dollars each, and 6 wallets that got around, I think, $800. And I'm very sure that there are people watching every single wallet of those and trying to figure out who they belong to. And that's something that I think could bring some issues and accusations, and it would probably have been easier to just state how the distribution will work internally. I don't really know why they didn't, why they said it's not of our concern. I really don't see a good reason for this, because, okay, they might have needed to justify why each person would get such a share, but they will now have to justify that anyway, without the community knowing the exact people that have received the funds. And that, in my opinion, is worse, because it leaves many rooms for interpretation, and that is a source of rumors, of accusations, of fighting, and so they could have addressed that.
For me, it doesn't feel like we outlined anything as a community specifically for our terms for handing this money to them. I think a common thing that you find with most proposals at the moment is there's more than one thing packed into it. And it's kind of like other things are put in there as teasers to more or less help things go along a bit more smoother. But I would look at some of these proposals and think this really should have been structured down into a few proposals. but we really didn't outline specifically what we wanted from this money. Wanting pretty much a method, a whole method statement of how it's going to go down, how exactly it's going to work, where the infrastructure is coming from, where is the server space coming from, everything, all the ins and outs, where's it going to. And you're just not seeing that beforehand, but the community are just more or less seeing it as a Terra Rebels proposal and just simply going, yes, we will support this.
Yeah, yes, but that's somehow an issue with the proposals currently, because it's very much based on who the community thinks they can trust, or at least those with the main voting power. And of course, it's also about the contents of the proposals, but if you have very a few things mixed in it, and you don't know, okay, do those who voted yes on the proposal agree to each and every point of that, or do they think, okay, one point is important and the others I'm fine with, I would not 100% agree, but it's okay. And if it passes, then it might be that the point all the people thought, yes, that we support, gets the least funding. So that's why I tried to ask Clan Madron or others how the funds would be distributed internally. But yeah, obviously they didn't want to disclose it. And now that the proposal is passed, it is pointless to discuss if it should have passed or should have not, and arguing about getting the money back, because that's something that won't happen, in my opinion. And it would be very strange if the community now tried to do something like that, because they should have thought about that before voting. And so the only thing left to do now is to watch what is done with the funds and to decide if that was the right thing, and then taking consequences for the future.
So Duncan Day has just reportedly, according to his own tweet, I was also removed from the Terra Rebels GIT hub. Want to know something cooler? Anon? Might be possible worth checking this out, because Duncan he's quite a bright-minded individual as far as I'm aware. He's actually put a lot of work in. He was part of the quant team, wasn't he?
I'm not sure if he is part. In the Discord, he is listed as an associate, so I'm not sure if he really is part of the quant. I think he was, and stepped back because he had much to do with his own stuff. So that might be that he's removed from other places as well, because I think he also stepped back a while ago.
Yes, I've just got his tweet up now on screen, Strafe. Let me send it to you, because it's always worthwhile. I think this is a big issue we have with people sweeping stuff under the carpet and just kind of hoping people don't talk about it and things will just go a bit smoother for them. But this in itself, it's very important for our whole community, because we just need to know what we're paying for and who's actually building what we've just paid for. So, and there's a huge, trust. Trust is such a big thing, isn't it, in the community? So Duncan's saying, yeah, he's definitely been removed from the GIT hub.
Yeah, he is. That is exactly that. No one can see who the actually working blockchain devs are. And that's something he stated in a reply to that tweet, that now all the others are invisible to him. Yeah, it's an issue. It's a transparency issue, and we have those transparency issues all around. That is something that is hard to address, because on the one hand, it's understandable that some people don't want to disclose their ideas, their progress, because it's always the risks that something is taken and used in a known project. So that part is understandable, but especially when you are the main entity that is thought of by the community to be developing on chain, then transparency is something that is really important. And yeah, we don't have that currently, because as much is kept behind closed doors as possible. And what is provided to the public is only that is absolutely minimum that is necessary.
Yeah, just give them enough just to keep them going. The This whole situation around transparency is, it's not good. And I was part of Terra Rebels at one point, on the marketing team, and I left myself just because of the fact of secret inner groups, people working on jumpers and merchandise and lotteries and stuff like that. Instead of just going ahead and building, solutions for problems at hand, we're still yet to see anybody come forward with, really good ideas. It just kind of seems like people don't want to bring their ideas forward, because if we look at one of the most recent ones, which was that Dex, yes, the Dex had flaws and there were issues with it, but this is where we should band together as a community, right? And bounce off one another to kind of go, well, hang on a minute. Yeah, we could do this better. And I'm suggesting that maybe we do this instead of just going, that's crap. I don't want to support it. No with a veto. You lose your money. Bye-bye. It's really not supportive of new projects, new ideas, and new people in the space, is it?
Yeah, that's kind of a common issue, that we don't have healthy discussions a lot. We somehow end in fighting all the time. So someone puts up a proposal or an announcement or whatever, and someone else disagrees, and immediately everyone is shouting at each other. It might be that it's much more harmony behind closed doors than we can see, but in the public, on Twitter and all those spaces, there is really more heat in the discussions than I would like to see personally. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I never really thought about being part of any of the factions, because there are kind of borders between them that you can't simply cross, and I feel better being independent and lend a helping hand where I think it is needed and where I think it is best used. And currently, I have the feeling, once that you are involved deeply with any faction on the chain, then you are limited to exactly that bubble, and you don't have the chance to do something else without being, yeah, without getting the heat yourself. And so I think it's a tough situation, because there are some personal disagreements maybe that will not be easily solved, and so it's probably hard for many of the different groups to closely work together. But in the end, the best thing for the chain probably would be to work on one big project and support wherever possible, and not try to separate from other projects or from several groups.
Yeah, it seems to be a big issue with this kind of, you saying about borders, crossing lines, factions and stuff. This is a big kind of like root cause of things, is because certain people won't interact with other people, and a lot of people have reasons for doing that, but then at the same time a lot of people don't have reasons for doing that, and it's kind of just they are more or less brainwashed. But getting projects to talk to one another and work with one another may seem like it's simple enough as just putting A and B together and then ending up with C, right? But it's not. They're always going to kind of want to understand what benefit is it to them, for them specifically, to team up with those people. And there's just not a lot of people out there that are doing things for free as it stands anymore. I mean, Eris Protocol, they make a killing on a yearly basis on their auto compounding modules that they created and people use. And they earn very good money off of that. And that's kind of the business morale of what crypto is, and getting people to work to it. It's just so hard a lot of the time to make that happen. But where do a lot of people are sitting there and they're thinking, right, Strafe, it's over, it's finished, it's done. But we beg to differ here, don't we?
No, it is not.
Exactly.
No, it's not over now. You always have to remember that the blockchain is not that different groups. That's not the blockchain. That are groups that try to do what they think is the best for either themselves or for the chain or for future development. And that's totally fine. But the risk is that any of those groups are seen as the sole savior of the chain. And I think that's something that we need to get out of people's minds. It's like, it's not of benefit to the chain if there's always a cry when someone leaves, for example, Terra Rebels, because that's not the end of the world. That's not even the end of LUNC. It's just that there are disagreements and there may be different routes to go in the future. But it doesn't mean that we have lost everything. And I don't see any chance that by just a few persons leaving, or even in the I don't think it will happen, but even, let's say, Terra Civita and Terra Rebels would decide, no, we will not continue working, and the both groups that we currently know of want to or do develop on the chain, on the core, they would leave. That still would not be the end. We still have developers that would jump in. We would have groups that would say, okay, come on, we try to get a new L1 team. It would set us back a bit, but it would not be the end. And that is something that is also a bit of an issue, is that there are many of those people that don't follow any news. They don't understand what is happening. I read all over the place, why is LUNC minted? You told it so often that it's just the remint from the seigniorage that is happening from one of the proposals from all the burns. And at the same time, there are so many people that want to have the 1.2% tax back immediately. And all those things. And it doesn't end. And that simply means that we have so much work to do educating. And it seems like a thing that is not even possible to educate all the people. Maybe some of them don't want to be educated at all. We don't know. And still, then we have such groups that even want to harm the chain or the community to push other coins or other projects, and that place them really in the hands, having those uneducated ones that jump on every bad news they can get. And I don't know what you can do other than what you, for example, are doing to try to repeat such things, the most important things, like why is the minting happening? Why have we lowered the tax? And or such things that add Edward Kim is doing with the Medium articles, explaining in depth of the gas fees and future outlook, and all those things are important, but we need to get the people not just to think I have my back and why is it not already worth $1 million? It should have been 1 month ago. But also to dive a bit into the chain, to what is happening, to what the reasons are, and I think only a small percentage of all the community members is doing that.
Yeah, so we're always going to have, sorry about the mute in there, folks, and the clicking of the button. The cat is currently deciding to run up to me, hit me, run off, then come back, hit me, then run off. So this whole kind of, so there's a very, very good expression to describe what this is, and it is the simple thesis of leading a horse to water, but you will not be able to make that horse drink. We can educate people under the sun, but sometimes these events have to happen in crypto for people to kind of get a grip on reality and understand, well, hang on a minute, they are reminting coins. How's this happening? Well, we voted for it, as like so many people realized they'd actually voted for the reminting of coins afterwards, and then was like, well, I didn't know they were going to remint coins. And it just, people will skim read stuff. Some people will see something negative in it and solely focus on that one thing, which is completely separate from what it is. And this whole issue of bundling.
The problem, for example, is that even the simple understanding of burning only 50% and 50% go to community pool, that this is not happening, and instead everything is burned and 50% are reminted. It is the exact same outcome, but it is a difference in the recognition of those people, because they only see the reminting. They don't see that double of that was burned before.
Yeah, of course. For most people, reminting or the word minting is like a trigger word. For a lot of people, it just triggers so many people instantly. We have a lot of just toxic meme kind of following in certain places. Not to say it's bad and stuff, but you know, a lot of it stems from there, you know, when moon, when burn, and when Lambo, and those kind of silly things. But you know, staying in the know is really everything, especially with Lunar Classic, but in crypto in general. So with the recent market turmoil, with everything moving downwards, a lot of people panicking, but realistically the whole market's doing it. Everybody's suffering. Doesn't matter what you had your coins in at that point, they would have dropped in value. So it's very, very peculiar. I'm going to be very excited to see how this now unfolds for Terra Rebels, how they handle it, and you know how they're going to move forward. But I definitely would like to see the correct documents to back up where the money's gone and who it's gone to, what their roles are, and what we're paying for, because I think we are entitled to that, considering we just paid them $150,000. But then they would probably beg to differ and say, well, we didn't sign anything and we're not responsible for you and we don't need to tell you that.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think they will disclose it. They don't have to. In fact, they simply can say, no, you gave us this, you read what it is used for, and how we handle that internally is really nothing you have to care about. So it's totally up to them to decide, but I guess it could damage the reputation quite a lot, not doing any specific disclosure, at least of the teams. So that means how much has gone to the core dev team, how much has gone to the PR team, how much has gone to whatever team. So maybe not disclosing what individual people have got the money, but at least the working teams. So the community can have a glance about what the funds might be used for or have been used for. And especially as they named the proposal about separating infrastructure, that means that you would expect that a big portion of this funds would go to funding cloud services or developing on the Rebel station the endpoints, the API, and that's a big question. Is that really happening? Is it only the 120 million that are left that maybe go to this, or is some of the 11 wallets that received the 10,000, is this anything that is related to cloud services? Maybe a group of people that is managing those cloud servers, ordering them, managing the contracts and such things. We don't know.
Cost. Doesn't it go between cost and business centers? Like you either go for one or the other, don't you?
Don't know. It's really it's really something we only can speculate about, and we have to wait either for Terra Rebels to disclose it on their own, or people coming forward. I think there are many that don't agree with this non-disclosure, and as I said, they will be tracking money flow and asking questions.
Yeah, they definitely will. This whole idea around this public image, and I think a lot of people vote on the basis of what it's going to mean for their public image. And I mean, we voted no. Even with the votes being lost, we will still put our vote in because it matters that people know that we are either against something or for something. We shouldn't leave it open to interpretation because we didn't vote. So we had quite a strong discussion about this Rebel Stations movement and what it means, and the whole idea of then having to pay for every single little tiny thing. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all pans out and how the community reacts to not getting disclosure, or if we do get disclosure. So very exciting. We are going to be having Zaradar actually on the channel for a podcast episode later on this week, folks. So we'll be looking forward to diving in and hashing out some of what the financial issues that he wasn't happy about and stuff like that. We'll probably be able to get the truth and exactly what happened and get it straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So Strafe, I think, there's not really a great deal we can do in this point in time, but just ride it out and see where it goes, because ultimately validators run the blockchain as it stands, and without validators they'll just have nothing to do anyway. So
no, it's just like we say always, keep building, and it's pointless to argue about funds that are already spent, and we just should look into the future and take our conclusions from it, and think about how we will manage it in the future, and then stick to our own business, do what we think is best, and continue working.
Definitely agreed. There's no point arguing over spilt milk. I said this all the way back at the start of the crash when everyone was panicking in chaos and not doing anything. It will never get us anywhere. In fact, it just gives us loads of things to do that are nothing to do with actually building and moving forward. Folks, we're going to leave it on that note. Let us know what you think in the comments section. Stay safe, beware of scammers, beware of doppelgangers, beware of anybody pretending to be us. None of us are financial advisors. Definitely not me, definitely not Strafe, and definitely not the cat. We will catch you in the next one. Ciao!